Welcome everyone. This is Andres Restart. This is the first live stream of the year on my channel. And you may be seeing someone on the side. They were out for a few weeks due to,
Mm,
well,
mm,
a number of things, holidays, sick, work, all that stuff. But
yeah.
Brandon is here and we're ready to talk about Nintendo tonight. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Feeling a bit under the weather, but not as bad as I have been. I've been sick for like a week. And it's
Long
been
time.
rough. Yeah, but I slept a lot today, and now I finally am like, okay, I have a little bit of energy now. Enough for the cast.
Yeah. I'm glad you're feeling okay-ish. I hope you do feel better soon. But yeah, tonight's not going to be an especially long stream, maybe like 90 minutes. We are going to focus more on Q&A. But I guess I kind of found what's been going on lately to be interesting because now it's kind of like there's a lot of rumors coming out about a Nintendo Direct, right? Like there's some
Mm,
rumors saying, oh, there's a Nintendo Direct happening in January. There's some rumors suggesting a Nintendo Direct happening in February, and I I don't know if any of them are credible.
right.
Now that said, historically speaking, we get what Nintendo Directs. We always have something from Nintendo by the end of February.
Yeah.
That's been that way
It's usually
consistently.
in February, but sometimes it is January.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly. Like most I'm glad you pointed that out. Most of the time it is February, and so I think expecting a February Nintendo Direct is the most realistic expectation. But when I think you account for what seems to be an ever more likely possibility that Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out this year, that
Right.
could shake up how Nintendo goes about doing things. Like think about how 2017 went down and then 2018. The beginning
Mm,
of Nintendo's generation, they were definitely sorting out when to best position their presentations, and
right.
it wasn't consistent. It became consistent throughout this generation, and now we've come to expect a direct every February. But that's because, well, we've had a very stable ecosystem of
Yeah.
this whole Switch thing, right? So this year that might change. I'm not saying it will change. I'm simply saying
Hmm.
it might. So I think it is worth having a conversation about what's actually happening beyond. Well, it's always February. I think that's very surface level. So we can dig a little deeper there. But before I go
Definitely.
any further, guys, if you could let me know how I sound, how Brandon sounds, if we sound okay, I would appreciate
I
it.
might be a little quiet because my throat's hurting.
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean I mean maybe you are a little soft spoken, but like right there, you exerted yourself and
Mm, mm.
you sounded clear, you sounded crisp to me. But I'm awaiting what everyone else has to say on how we sound. Bradley Taylor says we sound good.
Cool.
Nike Nin 10 says we sound good. Thank you. Aaron Rass says so as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, guys. Orlando Mota, awesome, awesome, cool. So we got several people saying we sound good. Awesome. Thank you, Having Hope. I appreciate that. So yeah, we're just gonna talk about Nintendo, right? We are gonna focus on doing Q&A. But Brandon hasn't been on for a while. So Brandon, I'm just kind of curious, what are your predictions? Maybe I don't know if you were prepared to give me your predictions, but do you think you could list off like five big predictions for you can do more if you want,
Mm,
but
mm.
like
Okay.
you got any big predictions for 2024?
I mean, I definitely think that Switch 2 is coming out this year. I can give a few predictions about that because
Okay.
I kind of feel similarly. Well, there's some things I would like to predict and some things I'm kind of like iffy on. But one thing I have felt consistent on is that I do feel like March is gonna be. I think we'll probably have heard about Switch 2 before March.
Mhm.
Like we will know it's a thing right officially, but I think March is gonna be when they do like the big full reveal, like they did in January of 2017 for Switch, and that's when pre-orders are gonna go up and all that, and it will be available in a few months in summer. I'm still not sure if I want to predict a specific month, but I do feel good about June. And if they don't do it as early as June, I kind of feel like September is still the time I would probably predict.
So, can you elaborate a little bit further on this June thing? This month of June. What do you mean by June? Well, what's happening in June?
Oh, that's when I think the Switch 2 will launch. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't make that
Okay.
clear. Yeah, June or September. That's when the system will launch.
I just think it's interesting. I don't know if you saw we talked about my predictions. So you helped me
Yeah.
kind of sort. So guys, to get a little bit of a context or just like a little bit of a behind the scenes. I spent a good while kind of thinking on what my predictions would be, and I wrote out several pages of what my predictions would be, and then I gave Brandon a call, and then we talked about for 45 minutes to an hour, and kind of went through all my predictions. And you added some perspective. You changed my mind on a few things, or reminded me of a few things that I missed, and so you helped. Yeah, I think you helped me kind of straighten it up a little bit. And so you know what my predictions are, but I guess what's interesting is that I think I've been fairly consistent, even like for most of last year. There was a time I was like, hey, maybe 2023 with Tears of the Kingdom, and that was just wrong, right? But it was mostly because there's a history of Zelda, right? And then that didn't happen, but we did get an OLED. But like for most of 2023, I was thinking, okay, we're probably getting a Switch 2 announcement by the end of March. Right. And I think the latest we see the system comes out is October, but I've been really kind of feeling September, if not earlier. And so with my predictions, once I finally cemented what I was going to talk about, I recorded it during the weekend. I came to the conclusion that and obviously it's my prediction. I don't know what's going to happen, right? Just to be clear, right? I do not know. But my conclusion is of what I think will happen is we will get an announcement, like you said, very similar to you, an announcement by March 31st. And I believe the system will be out by the end of the summer. And interestingly, summer starts technically, like I'm going by what the dates are, right? Not the traditional months. Right. June 20th to September 2020 to September 22. So while September is typically looked at as like the first fall month, technically it's still summer. So if Switch 2 ends up coming out like sometime in the first 3 weeks of September, my prediction would technically be right. And so that's kind of what I cemented myself in. But September is like the fail-safe for me, right? Like I do have this optimism that it can sort of happen in the summer. And I guess what I'm curious on, Brandon, like have you always felt summer, or has things happened recently that have now kind of led you to believe that summer is the right time to predict? You even say June, which is like the beginning of summer.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be a good time. I don't think it's gonna be a super huge window between like when the pre-orders go up and when the system itself is actually like physically in stores. And if we go by a similar time frame to the original Switch, if they announce in March, around June would be when they would launch it.
Yeah. So I don't think a lot of people.
Yeah, because that's 3 months. Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of people really mix up the window between the announcement, the presentation, and the release. But it's a lot shorter than people realize. Paul Gale talked about it the other day, but he actually like calculated like the exact amount of days, and I think the exact amount of days is 4 months plus 14. So I mean 30, 60, 120 plus 14. I think he said it's literally 134 days, right? Which is 4 months and 2 weeks. And so, I mean, I've just said it's been 4.5 months because it's October 20th when we got that teaser for Switch, October 2016, the 20th, and then it came out March 3rd. That's 4.5 months. That's not a long window. And so that's part of my reasoning too. Like if it is believed, it basically boils down to this expectation that I guess there's two core things. One is this belief that there's going to be an announcement by the end of the fiscal year, so by March 31st. And the second core belief is that Nintendo's going to have a similar, if not shorter, window between reveal and release. So, I mean, I think the second point is easy to understand, right? Nintendo did it with the Switch. This is a modern Nintendo. Most of the revealed to release cycles have been quicker during this generation, and it feels like that's the trend. So maybe we can even expect something even quicker this time around, especially with how prevalent leaks have become. So they may want to control the messaging, and once they start manufacturing, like mass manufacturing, they're probably going to be ready to reveal it really soon, in an effort to avoid leaks, control the message, and just really, market this thing really well. So,
I mean, if we go off the timing for Switch, they should be revealing. Let's assume it releases in June, because if you want it to release in September, they actually wouldn't even probably show it off until like March. But assuming it's releasing in June, they would probably do some kind of teaser for it this month, and by the latest, by the end of February, they would have a teaser. But it would around sometime mid this month would be where the timing would line up.
But you don't necessarily think we're getting an announcement this month, though, do you?
I mean, I've been thinking for a while actually that we would get a tease for it either this month or February.
Okay. Yeah, I
think that's a very good possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not outruling it. Like I think it's possible. But there's just so much information going out right now. A lot of different possibilities, a lot of rumors and reports and analyst predictions. So it's really hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, I could see them doing a direct, like the final Switch only direct this month, and maybe the tease either a week or two after or in February.
Okay, so you're thinking we get another Nintendo Switch Direct for Switch 1, and then after that, that's when the doors are open for Switch 2.
I'm not set on that, but I think
that's not a prediction. That's just speculation. This doesn't count as a prediction. That's just spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, that I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't know. I will say that I personally kind of felt that we're going to get to the chat, by the way, guys. I just haven't spoken to Brandon in this way for a little bit. So we're extrapolating and pulling out things from Brandon for a few minutes here. But something I want to say, the September Direct that happened, just happened this past year, right? Just a couple months ago. A few. The way that Direct ended, where they had kind of like that trailer at the end, to me it felt like, oh, so this is our year. Like maybe it was just meant to be like an end of the year Direct, and that was kind of the thinking, not so much that it's like the last Switch Direct. But some part of me felt a little bit like this could be the last Switch only Direct. I will say that I will kind of point out for like maybe the fourth or fifth time, starting 2023, if you go back to prior years, you can look it up now. Just look at all the Nintendo Directs. It's only the Nintendo Directs in 2023, at least the English versions, the North American versions, that they started putting a dash Nintendo Switch at the end of them. It used to just be Nintendo Direct and a date. And so they kind of changed that. And so it's kind of led me to believe that they want to kind of focus the marketing on just specifically Switch, which is odd because, it's just Switch right now. What else would they be doing a Direct for when it comes to game consoles? But starting this year, we think that's going to change. So I don't know. We'll see. But
I do think there should be another Switch only Direct, though, just because, I mean, they're not going to have a Direct with a bunch of Switch 2 reveals probably until they actually do a dedicated reveal event with like the pre-orders and stuff. I don't think in February they're just going to be like, you know what, we've had a tease for Switch 2, and that means all of a sudden we're announcing Switch 2 games in every Direct. Like, that's not going to happen. They're not going to talk about Switch 2 again until the big reveal event. Like, they'll tease it. If they tease it in February or this month or February, and they do a Direct before the event, like before their reveal event, I think that would
Yeah,
be a Switch only direct.
yeah.
Just by nature, it would have to be.
I kind of feel. I mean, if we assume our predictions is right, where the Switch 2 is coming out summer,
Right.
we're looking at a direct. I mean, it's not really that different from how directs are handled in prior years, where Intel is just going to kind of tell us what they need to tell us until they're ready for their next big direct. And
Yeah.
so basically, I think we're going to get a direct, and we already know about the games through March, right? So we're really just talking about April, May, June.
Yeah.
And I think we may already know about our two of those games already. That one being Luigi's Mansion 2, the other one being
Mm.
Thousand Year Door. Thousand Year Door potentially comes out a little bit later.
Yeah.
Well, both technically, but I kind of expecting they're coming sooner. And so Nintendo may only need to make like one or two like game announcements with a date. Well, those as well, but a couple more, and they're kind of set for the first half of the year. Now, if you assume that Splatoon, if I had put out a prediction that Splatoon 3 side order comes out April, and I could be wrong on
Mm.
that, it's DLC, they could probably squeeze it into one of these first 3 months of the year. But if they push it out to April and have this expansion be kind of like the content for April, yes, it would be light, but like you account for that plus Luigi's Mansion plus Thousand Year Door, we technically have like kind of 6 kind of major-ish releases leading up for the first half of the year. Then yes, that'll be
True.
light, but if this is meant to be kind of like the calm before the storm,
Yeah.
like right before Switch 2 comes out, then I think that's okay.
Oh, for sure. We've definitely had years where it's very light the first half, and then all of a sudden, like the second half's just loaded. I think
Sure.
2019 was like that. It was a big year.
2018, I think was like that too. Yeah. 2021, they closed strong. 2020, I mean 2022, I think was just a really good year. 2023 was also just a really good year. But I mentioned all this, right? Like, well, I still think there will be maybe some extra little things, like maybe Prime 2 remastered, Prime 3, maybe Wind Waker Twilight Princess collection. Like they'll throw in some more remaster stuff. Like, so this first half of the year might be remasters all over the place, and it'll be exciting stuff, but also nothing actually new, right? So that would be kind of like the thing that's looming. And so I say all that because I wonder if we get like a Nintendo Direct Mini instead, right? Like, what if we
That's very
don't get?
possible.
And so, interestingly, like I made some videos on this when the September Direct came out last year, right? I suggested that what if that September Direct was going back to the point I was making earlier? It was the final Nintendo, like full general September Nintendo Direct, and you're still right. I'm not saying you're wrong, right? Or even suggesting you're wrong at all. You're right that we still have another direct that's just about the Switch, but it's not a full direct, it's a direct mini. Because how much
I
more
could
do they need to
definitely see that.
announce? Like,
No, I don't think they have a ton of announcements. I do think there will probably be some announcements into the summer, like past when Switch 2 will be launching. But it's not going to be big games. It's going to be more remasters and stuff like that.
Maybe the things I said, but they spread it out a little bit more.
Yeah. I definitely
and
could see a direct mini.
And so I still think there probably will be a couple Switch games that will be relevant in the second half of the year. I mean, Pokemon, for example, right? We're probably getting news on that in February, as we typically do.
Yeah, Pokemon Direct for that.
Yeah, so I'm just throwing the idea out there that maybe you're right. We do get another like Switch exclusive Direct, but it might not be even a full Direct. It might be a Direct mini. So before we get into the rest of your predictions, I guess I'll just put out this little thought here. While there may be this excitement for what's to come, and I think this first half is going to be fine. Like, I'm excited for Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2. But, it's not going to be the best first 6 months of Switch in a calendar year. It's going to be light. And so, I mean, even like, that's what I'm kind of thinking there. But with that said, what are your other predictions?
I do predict that they will at least announce Donkey Kong for this year. I think this is the year that we need to see Donkey Kong.
All right. I actually had a similar.
Reveal.
I had the same prediction. I think it's too late for a big Donkey Kong game to come out and line up with the park because the park's coming out this spring, right? It's opening
Right.
this spring, so it's too late for that. But can they announce a big new Donkey Kong game? I mean, it could still even come out in the second half, technically.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't predict the Donkey Kong game to come out in the second half, mainly just because I think there's just so much that they're gonna have to fit into this year already.
Yeah.
That's something I see them announcing. Right, I have predicted it. I have the same prediction. I predict that they will announce Donkey Kong. I just think I am at this point. I'm feeling a 2025 release, and I'm happy to be wrong on that because I've been starved for Donkey Kong for a long time.
Yeah. I'm just thinking because I don't want it to get lost because of 3D Mario, even though they're very 2D. We don't know what the Donkey Kong thing's gonna be. Could be 3D, could be 2D.
Right,
But
and it's
either
also
way,
possible Prime 4 is not coming out till 2025, right? Which would hurt my brain. But
that'd be rough.
if that happens though, then okay, well then maybe Donkey Kong does slide in. I think it would
Yeah.
be better for Nintendo from like a variety balance perspective to have Mario and Metroid. Because I think
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like they're more different from each other. Like yes,
Very,
Donkey Kong
yeah.
is different from Mario, but they're both platformers, right?
Yeah, they're both platformers. They're both pretty much in the same universe.
And they appeal to a similar audience.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think Metro would be better, just from that perspective. And I'm not saying the next Donkey Kong game won't be big, but I mean I think it's well documented how much hype I have for Prime 4. If there's anyone that is not sleeping on Prime 4, it's me. Like I think this is going to be huge. It's going to be a 1A 1B from Nintendo, I think. But beyond Donkey Kong though, what else you got? Unless you want to talk about what this Donkey Kong game might be.
Nah, I think we've already speculated on that before.
Okay.
We don't really have any new information on that.
Yeah, sure.
What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. I definitely think either at launch or close to launch, there's gonna be either they're going to release. I don't know if they'll release a whole new physical version, like a definitive edition, but they'll probably just do like a patch for Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
Because I think that game is going to get a little bit of second life. I think they'll do something easy to change up the content. Something that's like not that big a deal. But I think they will add something else.
Master mode
they're
is
not
like
going to do DLC.
Master mode's like
Master mode or a hard mode or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think they will add something, but I don't think they're going to add like a ton of new content or an expansion or anything. But I think it will be in like 4K, maybe a 4K 30 FPS mode, 1080p 60 FPS mode, instant loading, and it's gonna have like much better draw distances and stuff like that.
That's interesting. Because I'm just thinking about Tears of the Kingdom and having played the amount of time, putting the amount of hours I've put into that game. I can see one. I think I'd be ready for a second playthrough sometime this year. Or after Switch 2 releases. But being as acquainted with the game as I am, I know how to challenge the engine, right? Like I created a short once. It's public. You can, if you look through my shorts, you'll find it. Where like the air bike you can create. So you can kind of, it's one of the better vehicles you can get. You have pretty much almost total free control over flying in the air. I've taken that and I've flown from the depths up through one of the chasms back to the surface. And so the way the game is designed, it's intended for you to dive down. And if you stop midway, you can climb back usually.
Right.
But
catch a dragon that happens to be coming out.
Right, like you can do that, but it's not intended for you to climb back all the way up from the bottom. And so what happens is when you get close to the top, it'll be kind of just like gray when you look out the hole, and the game will stop. The game will stop for like 5 seconds. And that's it loading. It's loading the surface when you do that. And so I mean, I've even seen times that I've been diving straight down where I have seen some hiccups, and so I mean, it's no secret that Tears of the Kingdom does have frame drops here and there, and
Yeah.
so it would be nice to see Tears of the Kingdom with no limitation like that. So that'd be cool. That said, if they do a master mode, I hope it's not just and I know this is kind of like a slippery slope here because they've told us there's no DLC, right? So we're talking
Yeah.
about master mode. I'm like, oh man, they should add in like more challenges and platforms so we can like push the mechanics even more.
I feel like something cool that they could add that might not be that hard, but might also need a lot of play testing. I'm not sure. Just let you connect more things to more things. Like let me attach more things. Like the Switch 2 should have a lot more CPU grunt. So I feel like be able to do more with Master and attach more things to more things would be cool. Like people would be able to build more
Yeah,
stuff.
it would be cool, but also I think whatever they do, like if it's just like a graphics performance patch, then that's fine. But when we start talking about the Switch 2 version getting exclusive content, especially when there are multiple interviews where the Zelda team has told us that there is no DLC, if they give the Switch, I don't think it's happening. I think maybe a master mode and maybe there's some extra little stuff to the master mode, but this would also be
Mm,
brought to the Switch version. That's kind of where I draw the line. Um, you know, I could be wrong, right? But I simply base that off what the Zelda team has told us more than once.
true. Although they've only ever spoken in reference to the Switch version of this game. There's not really anything stopping them with what they've said for them adding a ton of content. Like there's so many loopholes. I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm just saying, like literally,
Right. I
they
mean,
could have like a whole other expansion in the Switch 2 version of the game, and
yeah,
it wouldn't contradict anything that they've said so far.
technically, yes. I feel like it's wishful thinking.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like they've implied, like I don't think they like to set us up. They don't like setting us up for disappointment. So I feel like they've been clear about the messaging. And so, like, for example, recently there's an interview where, and Gamer Classic pointed this out to me last stream, I think. Was it Gamer Classic? I think it was. Or no, it was Jake Randall, actually. Sorry. Shout outs to both of them. But there was, and actually, I think it was on the Nintendo Prime stream. But, anyways, it was pointed out to me that Anuma, I think it was Anuma. One of the key members of Zelda team was asked about a dungeon maker for Zelda, and they just
Mm,
kind of like they were like, "Nope, not happening." Recently,
yeah, I heard
but
about
they
that.
were asked about Ocarina of Time remake, and they were like, "No comment." So it's kind of like, and we have our theories about the Ocarina of Time remake, right? So
Right.
I'm just saying, like, I think if there's something that they might be doing or they may be doing down the road, they won't ruin our hope, right?
Mm,
But if there's something that they don't want us to believe can happen because it's not going to happen, they're going to be like, hey, this is not going to happen.
facts.
So when we talk about DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think we're getting it outside of maybe a master mode, which can
Mm,
include some extra content. Like if we
yeah.
count the master mode in Breath of the Wild, they had like some platforms, some new chests, so it did mix up the gameplay a little bit. So if they could do that, that'd be cool. And but I just think they would still come to the Switch 1 version. But the Switch 2 version will have, it'll be like that Breath of the Wild tech demo that had instant loading, right? 4K, 60
Yeah.
FPS. Like that's gonna be exciting if we get that. But also, it's not gonna be anything super new. So
No.
it makes me want to ask you a question, right? If this is what happens, do we still get something else Zelda in 2024 outside of this Tears of the Kingdom patch?
I really feel like they'll at least announce something. Yes, I don't think Tears of the Kingdom is the enhanced edition is going to be the main thing for Zelda this year. I think it's just going to be a nice thing to help at the launch have something for you to guys to play and try out. The new features of the system, things like that. But and people keep pointing this out because I've seen some people in the comments of the stream or videos, and not just on this channel but other channels, be like,
In
"Oh,
general.
but Ocarina of Time 3D is so recent, guys. It's like it just came out." Except it's been just as long since that game as Ocarina of Time. Okay, let me put it this way. Ocarina of Time 3D is the same age as Ocarina of Time was when Ocarina of Time 3D came out.
Yes. Ocarina of Time came out in 1998. Ocarina of Time 3D came out in 2011. That was 13 years. And now we are in 2024. 13. It's the beginning, but we're getting close to 13 years again.
Yeah.
And something else I'll point out, sorry, because I've seen people say, oh, they already remade Ocarina of Time. Well, technically, it's a remaster. If you go back to the Q&A with Grezzo, back when Ocarina of Time 3D came out, they talk about building upon the source code, which is by definition a remaster. They're building off of something. They are enhancing the foundation, right? A remake is building something new. So it was remastered nearly 13 years ago, and that remaster came out 13 years after the original. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a good chance that, and I feel like it could come out this year. I feel like it could, depending on the release timings of other major games. Yeah, I think it could definitely fit in to this year if Nintendo wants it to. But I think it will at least get announced.
Yeah. It's for me like I've referred to Ocarina of Time remake as a prediction. I'm a little scared predicting it to come out in 2025, but that is my prediction. And a thought that occurred to me is that it would be exciting to kind of see that as a part of like the marketing lead up for Switch 2, just like so they can have like this visual showcase of like some. It's obvious it's a remake, so it's old, but it's also new, right? So it'll have like modern visuals with the Switch 2 ability, which will be one of the most impressive things we've ever seen from Nintendo. But I don't think they have to do that at launch. They didn't show Ocarina of Time 3D when the 3DS came out at launch. They didn't show Wind Waker HD when the Wii U came out at launch. They did have that tech demo, and they should if they had that, if that tech demo was a game, that Wii U tech demo for Zelda, I think the Wii U would have done a lot better. But it wasn't. And so if they have something like that ready for Ocarina of Time, then go for it. But I just kind of think with between 3D Mario, Metroid Prime 4, like I think they're going to spread things out a little bit. And I still think they could put that out in 2025. That's still early, right? And I think that's a healthy gap there. But, I was actually thinking, Brandon, when I asked you, and I think we're going to have to take a break from your predictions. We'll come back to them. But this is technically a Q&A.
We need to get to the chat.
Exactly. Right. So we'll come back to your predictions. But I was suggesting in my predictions video, right? Like, while I did provide the Ocarina of Time remake honorable mention, but I was kind of like, I think that'll happen in 2025, but I'm not sure about it being announced this year. I do kind of think that Nintendo's going to throw a bone for Switch 1 owners, and I think it's more than just a Master Mode update for Tears of the Kingdom. There have been some people entertaining the idea outside of just me and other YouTubers that maybe we finally get Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD.
It's possible. I don't understand why we haven't gotten those games yet. I really don't understand Nintendo's plan with those, because we could have gotten them at any time during the Switch's life cycle. There were actually several times where it was kind of slow for Zelda that they could have thrown them in, and they didn't. So I don't know. This definitely could be the time, but it's hard for me to predict those just because they've had so many times where they could have done it and they have not. So I kind of am not sure what they're planning to do with those titles.
Yeah. I basically, I'm just trying to squeeze out of you, hey, do you think it's possible we could get 2 Zelda things this year? Right? That's basically what I'm getting at.
I think it is.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't see any of the Zelda stuff for this year being huge, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did get at least an announcement of a second thing.
Yeah. Now, do you think we get something 2D Zelda related, or are they saving that?
No, I think they will save that, because unless it comes out on the Switch 1 and Switch 2, as like a nice little cross-gen thing, I think it makes sense to push like a Zelda remake or something 3D Zelda and then go for 2D Zelda later.
I hear you. So let's dive into the chat. There's a few things I would like to get to. So first, let me get to a couple super chat things here. And we'll come back to the rest of your predictions, Brandon. So Boo Mini with a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. This is technically the first super chat of 2024. So Boo Mini,
let's go.
thank you. And Boo Mini's prediction, 2024 prediction. This channel continues to rock. I'm adding that to my bingo card. Happy New Year. Thank you, Boo Mini. I very much appreciate that. And I'm glad I made it onto your bingo card. Appreciate that. Having Hope 5 has renewed their membership. Been a member for 11 straight months. It's been great having you around, Having Hope. And Having Hope says, this channel is awesome. I hope you reach 50,000 subs soon. You deserve it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You guys are too kind. I really thank you. But Brandon, there is a something I saw brought up in the chat that I kind of would like you to address, because this is something that you played a big role in when it came to this video. It was our Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door graphics comparison video.
Yes.
We did a little bit of a deep dive into the remake and kind of talking about the visual changes. And so Metroid Fighter 90 posed this question. Do you know if the new version of Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door utilizes the original source code? So we don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it does to some extent, but it doesn't keep the source code intact. I know that for a fact because they have very much just differences in different things, like where characters are. Like the scripting is not the same. So yeah. they if they did utilize it originally, they made a lot of changes to it, and plus, like, I don't know. I think there's just too much different in the game in terms of where things, like, even like who says certain things in cutscenes isn't the same. But I don't know. This is not a question I don't think I am equipped to answer.
Yeah. Brandon and I consider it a remake. Now, does that mean, like,
somewhat of a reimagining, if you want to view it that way?
This is a blurred line situation. I know we were just talking about how Ocarina of Time 3D is a remaster because it's built off the foundation, right, of that source code. And so it's kind of like, okay, at what point, is it a remake? Is it a remaster? Because technically, like, pretty much all video games, even if it's a brand new game, a new IP, what have you, will recycle something from a prior project.
Yeah.
Like, that's just kind of what happens. So it's tricky. It's tricky. That said, to your point, Brandon, like, what we see with Thousand Year Door, they're rendering entirely new visuals, right? It's a new art style. I think that makes a big difference. And as you pointed out,
objects aren't the same.
Yeah, literally the level layout, while it's made to look similar, it's not the same. And I think that's key. But something else I think is interesting, and this is just kind of how they're branding it. It's just called Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. It's not called Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door Remastered or Definitive Edition or Deluxe, right, as Nintendo likes to cycle through those kinds of brandings. It's just the game. And so whenever they've done just the title, that's implied this is a full remake. Like, look at the most recent example, Super Mario RPG. That's a full-blown remake. And it just has the title. That's it. So I think we should be calling it a remake.
I think so as well.
Yeah. If that means that they're not utilizing the source code, then sure. But I guess I want to be cautious about that, because in theory they might. I mean, I feel like you're gonna at least take a look at the game, right? Like you have an inspiration. Like, you need to do research on the source material, and I have to imagine they would have done something there. So there's that. Yeah. But just moving on here. So this is an interesting point. So Neil-san says Pokemon usually lingers on the old system for longer before they jump to the new system. A switch to SKU for 2024 Pokemon game is unlikely for this reason. And so I think Neozon is saying this because I predicted in my predictions video that I think for Pokemon, yes, it's going to come out for Nintendo Switch, but I also think there'll be some type of enhanced version for Switch 2. And so in the video, I did talk about a possibility of a separate release for Switch 2, but I also said it could just be like a patch. But my ultimate point is, in some way, shape, or form, however they choose to go about it, I think there will be a visual enhancement readied up for Switch 2 this holiday for Pokemon. And so it doesn't have to be a physical release, but I did imply that as a possibility. And I fully recognize your point, because it is true. Pokemon does tend to linger for a while on their prior gen systems. That said,
they did not do that for Switch, did they?
They did. So Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon came out November 2017, which is already out for that year, right? So their first game was 2018 with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So by that pattern, you would think, okay, well then maybe we get a Pokemon game on Switch 2 in 2025. But I'm just talking about, I'm not talking about an exclusive, right? I'm talking about an enhancement. And they haven't done that in the past, but I think with Switch 2, that's kind of going to be like the big thing, enhancements. Like we're hearing about a lot of things like that. There's a lot of rumors and things of that nature. And I will tell you that, I think that part of the reason I went for this prediction is because I've seen some people maybe very subtly hint at something like this. Now, that doesn't mean they'd actually know, right? It's one of those things where I'm kind of going a little bit out on a limb, right? And so when it comes to predictions, right, like I do try to get it right. But at the same time, sometimes you just kind of got to have fun, because if you play it safe the entire time, well, one, it might be a little boring, but also two, you're probably still not going to be right, because guess what?
Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't play it safe all the time. Video game companies or just humanity doesn't play it safe all the time. No. Sometimes the most predictable thing is the unpredictable. So obviously not all the time, because all the time that would be also wrong, because then it wouldn't be unpredictable anymore, would it?
Right.
But that's just one of those times where, like, hey, I understand the history, but I think this may be the time the pattern breaks a little bit.
I think it's different as well, because I think the jump between, or the move from Switch to Switch 2 will be inherently different than their other systems, especially 3DS to Switch, just because those are they're so different systems in terms of capabilities. It just never made sense. But even back in the day, switching between, say, DS and 3DS, like the way that those systems handled backwards compatibility is also very different, usually with like a dedicated hardware block that would run. So the idea of like having backwards compatibility that was enhanced wasn't really a thing. Like if you wanted backwards compatibility, you pretty much made it to be exactly like the old system. Whereas nowadays, you could have backwards compatibility with enhancements very easily on the Switch 2. You wouldn't have to build a whole different like version or do anything like super ridiculously crazy. You just need to port the game to the Switch 2 SKU and then add your enhancements.
Yeah, we were getting a whole bunch of announcements today of like different like games that are like running with the DLSS 3. Like there's some sort of event going on. Like I saw Horizon Forbidden West, ES, and like it has ray tracing from NVIDIA. It has the improved latency, improved resolution. Like it's like, hey, this is Horizon Forbidden West has the NVIDIA magic going on right now on PC, which is cool. It just kind of gets me think, oh, so they're coming out with this tech now. Like they're announcing a bunch of stuff, like different games running on it. It kind of feels like, oh, okay. Like I think there's also Dragon's Dogma 2, Capcom. Like it just kind of gets me thinking, I don't know. Capcom might be gearing up to have NVIDIA and put those powers into Monster Hunter Wilds on Switch 2. But yeah, the point is, going back to your point though, like they may want to put in a little bit of that DLSS NVIDIA magic in there. Or at
Yeah,
least just take advantage of the significant
especially
raw
just
power increase just to have it look a little bit better.
right, because like on the 3DS as well, like Ultra Sun and Moon, yeah, they had some performance issues. I mean, even the original Sun Moon had some performance issues,
Yeah,
especially if you put it in 3D. But if you play it on the new 3DS, it wasn't that bad, and
runs better.
generally
Yeah.
it was fine. It was perfectly playable. Whereas like the issues we're seeing now in Pokemon games are much more severe. And the jump to a new system would help out a lot.
Yeah. I do want to say though that the reason Pokemon looks and runs terrible is not because Switch can't handle a game.
True, but the Switch 2 might be able to just kind of brute force it.
Brute force its way past those shortcomings. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean I also understand that point as well. Yeah, we'll see what actually happens though. I got a few other little super chats here. I would like to get to those, and then we'll continue on with the chat. So Charles Trudell, figure I should do my usual tip. Thank you, Charles, for your usual
Thank you,
tip.
sir.
Very much appreciated. And then Taker610 with a super chat as well. Thank you, buddy. Poses this question: Direct announced tomorrow per Nintendo Land. So I haven't seen his video on this. And I don't want to be like, no, it's not happening. No way. Because I try not to be arrogant and just completely outrule possibilities with no proof that it, like, so I have no evidence that tells me that it's not happening tomorrow, but I also have no evidence telling me that it is happening tomorrow
I
either,
kind of
right?
do feel like it could be tomorrow or next week though that we get the like an announcement for like a mini direct. Maybe that's the last. That's when we have
If
the
we
last
get a
direct.
direct mini in January that they don't mention Switch 2 at all, it's gonna be the most, like, people are gonna be like, see, it's fake, but I'm gonna be like, no, don't you see?
No, don't you see
Can't
that?
you?
That means it's real.
Right, but that's what's gonna happen. Like, I guarantee you, if we get a Nintendo Direct, even if it happens in February, right? If we have a Nintendo Direct, if we get a Nintendo Direct Mini in January or February, like if it's called a Mini, you and I are gonna be like, see, Switch 2 is literally about to be announced. But there are
Facts.
going to be people be like, no, like they clearly, like, it's not happening. They just made more game announcements. It's just, you see what you want to see.
There's gonna be Switch games announced after Switch 2.
Right,
And
then
right before Switch 2.
exactly.
All around there.
But I mean, if we had a Direct Mini announced tomorrow, my hype's gonna go over the roof because one, the Direct Mini is probably gonna be fun to watch, right? With set expectations, right? Like, don't go in expecting like Metroid Prime 4 or 3D Mario or Switch 2, but maybe an update on Thousand Year Door, an update on Luigi's Mansion 2, maybe another remaster or two, and maybe even one new game announced. Like, that's conceivable with some third-party stuff. But that's kind of it, right? So, like, that's gonna be exciting, but as we're kind of alluding to, it's basically Nintendo screaming to the world without saying what they're saying that, yeah, hey, we're about to announce Switch 2. Like, it'll make me double down on Switch. Like, I've already made my prediction, so I'm doubled down as it is, but I'll be quadrupled down on
triple
an
down.
announcement. Right, exactly. Like, I'll be so ready for an announcement. But yeah, I haven't seen Nintendo Land's video takers, so I don't know. I do hope to do a little bit more digging before we end this stream on some stuff. I don't know what Nintendo Land is referring to. I thought Nintendo Land was referring to because there's two different like rumors going on around right now that I've noticed about a direct. There's one rumor for a direct in January, there's another rumor for a direct in February, and I don't have a lot of reason to believe either of them. And so I thought the Nintendo Land was making a video on one of those.
Almost certainly one of them will end up being quote unquote true.
Well, in theory, both could be true, but probably I also in theory both could be wrong and also probably wrong. I just need more evidence. I haven't seen his video, so
just because you happen to line up doesn't mean you were actually true.
Yeah, but I will pay more attention. That's for
Best.
sure. So let's continue on the chat though. I actually want to. I'm not going to share these because there's a lot of things that Brandon. I'm going to do kind of like a quick, like I'm going to do like kind of like a quick blitz, right? So I don't want to
Sure.
linger too much, right?
Gotcha.
Just so I can kind of get through some big things that were brought up, so I can go back to your predictions, and then we'll maybe dive a little deeper on some of these things
Cool.
afterwards. All right. So looking through here, I'm trying to go back to the beginning. All right, so Nike Nin 10, this is like before stream even started, said also a summer release of the console would make holiday sales better because if they release it in the summer and it sells out fast, they'll be able to stock back up for the holiday season. And that's part of my reasoning with the summer release. I think
Good point.
it gives Nintendo more opportunity to build up a lineup, work out kinks, get response, market it out there, get that word of mouth out there, and yeah, have multiple shipments. And so going to the holidays, maybe you have close to 10. I don't know if 15 million is a stretch, but like more than 3, right? Like maybe we're
Yeah.
approaching 10 to 15. Something like
As
that.
much
15 might
stock
be a
they can
stretch,
get
but
out.
as much as they can. And so when they put up that 3D Mario, it's gonna sell. It's gonna put out numbers, right? Like maybe
Right.
I don't know if it would outsell Mario Wonder, but it'll be off to a very strong start, for sure. Guys, I see a lot of the positivity in the chat. I very much appreciate that. Thank you. Liking the stream is helpful.
Thank you, guys.
AB James added me. I'm with you on thinking Nintendo will skip announcing a code name for new hardware prior to its launch, unless we get the code name in March. Unless we get the code name on the first week of February.
Yeah. I think they'll probably just tease it as the actual name.
Yeah. That's what I kind of think. I think it's just a different Nintendo now, and we have quicker turnarounds. And in the past, Nintendo didn't have games for us to play. They had, hey, here's a code name. Chew on that for 3 months.
They announced that for all so far before they announced the Switch. That was like very early in the year. They announced, they were like, hey.
Yeah. But I will also say we are getting the Q3 Q&A in the first week of February, and so we might get some details there about what Nintendo may have brewing. But we'll see. And who,
I
so
wonder
like if we're
we'll
going to get a code
the,
name, I think that would be when we get it.
I wonder if we'll see the tease before then, just so they have something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't. My stance is by March 31st, and so for me, every day is like alert. Like every day, between now and March 31st, I'm like, I'm on alert.
I think if it's gonna be released in June, we'll have probably a tease already by the end of this month or sometime early next month. But if it's not gonna be released until like September, we might just see the tease in March and not actually get pre-orders
in June. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, for sure. I can see that actually. That makes sense. AB James, this open world 3D Mario game is going to blow away the gaming world, let alone Metroid Prime 4. Nintendo's very healthy right now going to this transition. I think 3D Mario and Metroid Prime 4 are going to be the GOATs.
Yeah, I definitely think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be in a looker for sure. Like all Retro Studios games are lookers.
Yeah, I'm hyped. I'm very hyped. Let's see here. Sam talks about games. Says they think Switch 2 is a June, July release. Brandon feels similar. I'm just by the end of summer, which I extend the window just a little bit, but it seems we're kind of similar in that thinking. And it goes back to what I think we were talking about earlier, how we kind of all feel that we're getting an announcement in these first 3 months, and if we assume they're going to have a quick turnaround, that's kind of where it lines up around that summer period. Boo Mini here added me. I predict that Andres Risto will be making many predictions throughout 2024 regarding Nintendo information. Something kind of tells me I'm right. I challenge anyone to disagree with this. I mean, I put out my predictions. I think over time I've gotten better at not predicting everything and just kind of considering possibilities, right? Like sometimes I'll put out a video. That doesn't mean I believe what's going to happen. Doesn't mean I think it's impossible either, right? Like I'm going to tell you that, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is why people are talking about it. This is what I think. These are the possibilities, right? And so like I try to have a conversation about it and consider options because I don't think we're ever really certain, right? Like for example,
No.
I think I've made myself pretty clear. I'm on the Switch 2 2024 train, right? But I literally made a video talking about the angle of, well, what if Switch 2 doesn't come out in 2024, like a month or two ago, right? Like I did that, and I'm going to continue to do things like that. I'm always going to try and challenge different perspectives. Like that's what I do. And so there's going to be different theories, speculations, considering different angles. And sometimes I'll have one theory and the next week I'll have another, and they may seem like they kind of contradict each other, but that's just because I'm considering two different sides. And sometimes my opinion is going to change. But having my predictions, I think, is fun because that's like something where you can go back to and be like, okay, so he actually predicted this. And so the bingo card, right? You can hold me to that, right? I'm not saying can my mind change on some things? Sure, right? Like if Nintendo announces Switch 2 and says it's $500, and and then I change my mind because Nintendo told us it's $500 as opposed to $400. Well, then obviously, right? But you know, it is what it is. Moving on here, Connor, how's it going, man? And also, I know that Zippo announced that this Direct will be the last one for Switch, but do you think this is the year we finally get Tamagotchi Life? Firstly, Connor, thanks for asking. I'm good. I hope you're doing well. I did notice that Zippo has come back. So the leaker that was taken down, but apparently not.
I didn't know he was taken down.
Yeah, he was. Apparently, someone flagged him for like pornography or something, and it worked.
Oh.
Yeah. There was no porn. He was just talking about video games, but that's apparently what happened. It's weird. A lot of people don't like Zippo. And so I think Zippo actually is Zippo the source behind the Direct tomorrow. I know he's predicting a Direct for January. And so if that's what the Nintendo Land video is about, let's see here. I'm looking at his blog post. Yep, I'm hearing from the usual sources. Nintendo's planning a Direct to air this very month. It could air from this coming week to the end of the month. That's a range.
That's a very big range.
So if that's where Nintendo Land is getting the idea of a Direct announcement happening tomorrow, I'm gonna stay on Team Doubt here. So while I think there have been a couple things in the past that have happened with Zippo that may be kind of like pause for thought, and I've made some videos on the subject, I've never really been like, yeah, this is super likely when it's coming from Zippo, just because there's a lot of things they've discussed, and not a lot of it has come out has proven true yet. So you know, I usually doubt it.
Yeah. Not the most reliable of sources.
They were right about Mario Wonder stuff, though. So, you know. But some people will say, well, a broken clock is right twice a day.
True.
But we don't know why they were right. It could have been because they do have some legit info. We don't know.
Even if they do have legit info, it's quite clear that they put out false info as well.
A lot of stuff is proven to be either wrong or not right yet. So, or perhaps misinterpreted. Yeah. As for Tamagotchi Life, all I'll say is, yeah, I know it's sold a lot on the 3DS, and so I think it makes sense to get another out. And I feel like it's something that could do well on Switch, even while Switch 2 is out. So, sure, but do I feel good about making a prediction on when it's coming out? I don't know. That I don't know. I just know that it does make sense to do another one.
Oh wow, it's sold 6.7 million copies.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's on 3DS. So imagine what it could do on Switch. Granted, Switch is on its way out, so you know.
Still, a system on its way out with over 100 million active users says a lot of software.
True. I mean, maybe it's available for both, right? Switch 2 and Switch 1. So
Yeah. Or it could come out before Switch 2.
yeah, it's possible. It's possible. All right, so I
would
kind
enjoy it.
of yeah. Sorry, I'm just kind of zipping through the chat. I'm focusing on the ads just to catch up a little bit,
Mm.
and so I'm sorry I can't get to every question.
How dare
But
you?
I will do a little bit more though. Dis_Inferno asks, is there any new Nintendo movie series will be announced this year?
Probably not. Well, they announced Zelda last year. They could announce something this year. For maybe like a Donkey Kong movie.
There's some conversation that I've seen online that suggesting that Nintendo and Illumination may be working together on a Donkey Kong movie, or I don't think anyone's made a video on this yet, but or Star Fox.
Ooh. I would like that. Star Fox would be good.
Yeah.
I think Donkey Kong makes the most sense just because Donkey Kong was a big part of the Mario movie, and so he should probably get his own movie. But Star Fox would be huge.
Could be huge,
I definitely
yeah.
think there's going to be
You need a
another
new game,
Illumination Studio movie relatively quick. Maybe
Sure.
even before the Zelda movie, because we're not sure even how far along that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Nintendo is using different teams. Like they're going to have multiple movies in the works at the same time.
Yeah.
And so they're I think they're building up a network here of studios to work on their IP.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in terms of what could be announced this year. These things take time. And so my expectation is maybe we hear some official word about the Mario movie, like maybe Nintendo confirmed. Like even though we pretty much know they're gonna make another Mario movie, we don't know. Like Nintendo hasn't literally said, "Yep, it's on the way. Stay tuned for more updates."
Apparently,
I think we might get
Jack Black
that
has
this year.
not heard anything. Like he's saying he hasn't heard anything about a Mario movie sequel.
Yeah, we'll see on that.
So
we'll see.
He could have just said no comment.
Right. Well, I mean, also they may have just not reproached him about doing it. I mean, they're gonna. I think it's.
I definitely think they're gonna do one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's gonna be the next movie though.
Yeah. Imagine Jack Black doesn't want to play Bowser anymore.
He's just like, I'm done.
I doubt that though.
I think highly doubt that.
Yeah.
I think he really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. It's also like it's really good for. I think it's really good for their careers because like the Mario like Mario movie is the second best selling like animated movie ever in the box office. Like,
yeah,
that's
Mario's
pretty good.
One of the most recognizable IPs on the planet. So
exactly, yeah, you want to be a part of that if you can. And it seemed like they had fun with it too. So it's not like it was a toxic. Like we haven't heard anything bad about the working environment. I'm sure. I'm assuming they were paid handsomely as well. So like, it doesn't seem there's like really any major cons that we've heard of. So I don't see why they wouldn't continue on. But I guess maybe the implication is they haven't signed a long-term contract.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I would like to see something not a movie get announced, like a show. I would really like to see a show get announced from Nintendo for like maybe HBO Max. I guess it's just Max now.
Yeah, maybe an HBO Max Metroid show.
Ooh, that would be really good.
Yeah, it would totally be. It'll be amazing. So Netweed added me and said, I think Super Metal Day 64 made an excellent point among the rumors swirling one key game, Andres, namely Zwan Yuan Swords developer's amazing tweet. And so I actually saw Day's video. I haven't looked at this yet, like the source, but I saw his video. And so the basic story from this, from what I remember, is they were talking about a game that's going to be the swan song for Switch that's coming out in spring. And so the implication is that if Switch 2 is coming out, it would be after this spring, which I mean, summer.
Yeah.
It does. Summer is
still come after spring,
right? Summer's after spring, so it could be then. It also doesn't have. That doesn't mean it is summer though, right? It could be even beyond that. But if their final Switch game comes out in spring, they're implying that they're done with Switch and they're moving on to another project. So there's something there for sure. It's another drop in the bucket of their Switch is wrapping up, not ramping up, wrapping up or ramping down. And actually, there's another thing that came out. So apparently, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Metroid Dread, Paper Mario, The Origami King. These games are like sold out in a whole bunch of big stores like Best Buy and Walmart and stuff, and they haven't been restocked. And so people are wondering, why are these games disappearing? You could argue maybe they're just not selling well, so they're maybe trying to drill up like a false sense of like demand to kind of get people to, and then it becomes actual demand, right? They're trying to artificially like create more value in the game by creating scarcity. And so maybe that's what it is. It could just be one of those old Nintendo tactics. That's an accusation, but it wouldn't be the first time that they've been accused of doing this kind of thing.
Right.
I don't want to jump to the conclusion that it's related to Switch 2, but I am entertaining the possibility that it's about Switch 2. Like, what if this is another sign of, hey, there are just some games they're not putting out anymore. They're wrapping things up and they're getting ready for their next console. And so not every game that was coming out for Switch is going to be as readily available. That's possible.
Yeah. I mean, those carts for Switch games are not cheap to make. And all three of those games you mentioned, I don't think are like really selling anymore.
Right.
So it makes sense.
They're great. They're all fantastic games.
Oh, yeah.
And they all sold well, but they're not, from what we've understand, they're not.
They sold well, but then they kind of died.
Right. Like they had a strong initial sales. They sold a few million, and then that's it. They moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my thoughts. Exactly. And so those are the kind of games that they don't need to have around when the Switch 2 is out. Like, have you ever gone to the store and seen, like, I don't know, like, think back to, like, for example, during the Wii U era, and you still see, like, Nintendo DS games in Target, right? Like, games that came out in 2006 or 7, but you're playing a console that came out in 2012.
Wii games were on the shelves for a long time.
I remember Mario Kart DS just being on store shelves for years. Years after DS was done. And it was still full price. Still full price.
Full price. Dang.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah. Right. But what's interesting, I bet now that full price seems like a steal. Because if you want to, a lot of those games are.
Was that really like $30, $40?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but it's that range, 30 to 40. Yeah. It's crazy. Let's see here. Darcy added me, in celebration of Switch 2 coming out, what do you think about doing a Switch era Nintendo Direct tier list? That's a fun idea.
Ooh, yeah.
It's actually something I thought about doing. It requires a little bit of research, like actually watching the directs, and that's a lot to watch through. But fortunately, I think most of them have like timestamps, so I can at least like look at the lineup and be like, okay, like. And so it's something I thought about, and I think it's something I thought about, and so it's in the back of my mind. But you pointing it out to me does increase the chances that I may eventually do it. We shall see. Brandon seems excited about it, so I don't know, Brandon. Maybe you want to get some of that legwork done.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, maybe we can make it like a live stream discussion or something. We'll brainstorm it. The Bigger Reality says, I like predictions because you never know what happened. Like you never know what's gonna happen. That's true, right? So you're entertaining possibilities. That's a big part of what the channel is. We speculate, we do theories. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, and sometimes we just get cool perspectives, and it's just like a fun mental exercise. Yeah. Yeah. Perry Carlisle Backer, an F-Zero movie. Let's go! Yes! An F-Zero movie would be sick. Imagine, like, I mean, that would be cool. Like, imagine kind of like Speed Racer, but F-Zero. But
I have not seen Speed Racer.
Yeah, it would be epic. It'd be so cool. I mean, playing as Zero GX, there's like a story there, and hopefully we get
Yeah,
the
it's got like
NAS version of
CGI
that this year.
cutscenes.
So, and that is one of my predictions. But it brings me back to you, Brandon. So, what other predictions do you have?
Oh, let's see. I'm not sure if I have more. I'm trying to think. No, you might have to come back at me, and then none come to mind. I thought I had some more, but they're not coming to mind.
And so, all right, that's fine. If something comes up, just let me know. There's an interesting thing here I would like to address. This kind of goes back to something. I can't find it now, but I have the super chat, so I'll get to that. Sam talks about games. Thank you for your super chat, buddy. Sam says, if the Switch 2 is rumored to be revealed in March, and considering it's more of a conservative iteration, I bet turnaround time is shorter, 3 months. It's an interesting point, right? Because we know what Switch is. If Switch 2 is kind of just a better version of that, how much more do they have to educate us on?
And yeah, so they might just skip the tease and just go straight to the full
presentation, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, I'm okay with that.
I'd be fine with that.
Will it happen?
I feel like they'll probably tease it because I feel like they know that we know that something's happening, and they probably want to get the tease out and show us what it looks like before the leaks. So depending on, like, because we're hearing rumors right now that manufacturing is starting, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it very soon.
Assembly
even.
Yeah.
So yeah. So assembly of the actual Switch or the chipset?
I don't know. Assemblers, mass manufacturing. Those are the words used in the Universal Nintendo report.
Okay. I imagine it's for the Switch itself, because NVIDIA.
My interpretation was we're past the chip stage, but that was like, so I don't know if there's any other implication from that if you hear assemblers going into mass manufacturing.
I don't know enough about that to know.
Yeah, I also know that in December, Nintendo requested next generation OLED panels for multiple IT devices from Samsung. This happened in December.
So yeah, probably the unit itself is starting to get manufactured, which means that it is going to get leaked very soon. Within the next month or two, we'll probably, if manufacturing has started, the actual assembly of the unit, in about a month or two, we'll have full pictures online of what that looks like, fully assembled. So I imagine they will want to get a tease out just so that they can be the ones to show it. Otherwise, no, I don't think they need a tease. They can just straight up reveal it. But also, you do want to get people ready for those pre-orders. You don't want to just be like, oh, this thing that, we knew you knew about, but we didn't officially tell you was a thing. Yeah, you better have your money ready, because that goes live today.
Yeah.
In fact, it's live right now.
What if?
I mean, that's how it was in the 2017 presentation. Like, they were just like, and you better make it to GameStop or Best Buy when it opens, because pre-orders are live.
I mean, yeah, like the presentation, it was like 6 weeks before the system was coming out. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Such a quick turnaround. Interesting. The real J Stone is saying the Wii U hardware is beginning to fail on the memory basis. Must be not being used for a long time, huh? My Wii U still works, but I definitely have issues with it. It still runs games fine, but the Wi-Fi card's a little wonky. I've had my struggles staying connected to the internet on my Wii U.
So Wii U have any way to get Ethernet, like through an adapter?
Yeah, if you use an adapter, it'll connect.
Okay.
Yeah, I misplaced my adapter during my past moves. I don't know where it is. It might be in my brother's house somewhere or my father's house. I don't know. I moved like 5 times last year. It was a mess. Yeah. Brandon, did you get to remember any of your predictions?
No.
No. No. Okay. Well, guys, we're gonna go on for like another 10 to 15 minutes. So if there's anything you want us to like address or talk about, at me right now or send a super chat or just put in the chat. Like I'll try and get to it. And we're gonna wrap things up here soon.
Oh,
Um,
I did have
go on.
another one
Sure.
I remembered that we were talking
Okay.
about the other night. I think Splatoon 3 will probably get an update for Switch 2, like an enhanced version, and they'll probably
Yeah.
keep that game going for another year or two before Splatoon 4 comes out. I don't think they're just going to immediately be like, and we're moving on to Splatoon 4 in 2025, guys. I think they'll wait a little bit and maybe wait till like 2026 for Splatoon 4. But yeah, at the very least, even if they do have it come out in 2025, I think they'll have like an enhanced version for Switch 2 so people
Yeah.
can keep
I
playing
mean,
that.
when we had our conversation about this, like you convinced me. Like I put that in my predictions. I was like, yeah, I think there's gonna be a number of enhancements. And Splatoon 3, I think it makes sense. Like like of the two like Switch games that have already come out that I think should get an enhancement, it is Tears of the Kingdom and it is Splatoon 3.
Mm.
Those are two games that I think matter the most. You could argue Mario Wonder and Pikmin 4 as well. Those are the
Eh,
games.
Pikmin 4 would be
Yeah,
nice to see. Mario Wonder would be. It would look pretty much the same.
right.
I
And
played that on my 4K TV. It looks fantastic. Like
right.
already.
So if I'm ranking in terms of importance, Tears of the Kingdom just because of how popular it is.
Yeah.
Splatoon 3 because it's an online game that's getting its DLC this year, so it's still pretty relevant, right? And it's
Yeah.
gonna have legs for a while. Then Pikmin 4 just because it's like the last visually impressive, ambitious Nintendo game. And so from that perspective, right?
Right.
And it's still relatively fresh. It's fresher than Tears of the Kingdom and Splatoon 3, technically. And I put Mario Wonder as number 4. Mario Wonder, I agree with you. It doesn't really need it. It's a 2D game, right? It looks great as it is. I mean, if they were upscale to 4K, it would just look nice, right? But maybe it's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just purely because it's a popular game this new, and that's literally it. Like I don't honestly, I'm not even expecting an update for Mario Wonder or Pikmin 4. They weren't in my predictions. I'm
Right.
just picking Tears of the Kingdom and Splatoon 3. But like
If they did
if there's
update Mario Wonder, if because I feel like the Switch 2 might support 120 FPS for some games, like maybe the next Smash or Mario Kart or something, like less demanding games. It would be cool if they had a 120 FPS mode for Mario Wonder on the Switch 2.
yeah, no, that would be neat. Would feel smooth.
Yeah.
Very smooth. So here's an interesting question from Having Hope. How about Xenoblade 4? So
Huh. We don't even know
yeah.
technically if Xenoblade 4 is going to exist.
Well, yeah, that's tricky. Because we also have the Xenoblade X, right? And so I've been recently speculating that Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition could be in the works. But also I think we may finally see Monolith Soft's new IP.
Right.
I think because we just finished the Klaus trilogy, right? Like that
Yeah.
storyline has been wrapped up. From interviews, they've pretty much told us that they're not done with Xenoblade, but this is maybe like a transitional point for Xenoblade, if that makes any
Right.
sense. And so that's one of the reasons why I bring up Xenoblade X. Like Xenoblade X is kind of like separate from the other Xenoblade games, and so
Yeah.
maybe they go back to Xenoblade X and they kind of can do that storyline, or they create a whole other realm of Xenoblade, right?
Mm.
And so to your point, Brandon, I kind of agree that we may not even get a Xenoblade Chronicles 4 because you
Right.
can argue Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was Xenoblade Chronicles 4, right? Because of X. Um, but there will be other Xenoblade games. And
Right.
so when do we see those? I don't know.
And they might not be called Xenoblade Chronicles. Could be Xenoblade something else.
Maybe. Yeah.
That might be how they
Xenoblade
differentiate it.
series of unfortunate events.
Yeah. But I don't think it's going to be called 4 because I don't think it's necessarily going to be directly related story-wise.
Xenoblade and the Goblet of Fire. Xenoblade and the Fellowship of the Monado.
Oh yes, my favorite
That would
Xenoblade
actually
game.
that would be pretty cool. Actually,
That does sound pretty hype, actually.
right. I mean, it's like it's this journey of a part. Like that's Lord of the
That
Rings would
was
be like
Xenoblade 1.
you could make Lord of the Rings a JRPG. Just saying, like
Oh yeah,
that would be cool if they
I've wanted that for
reimagined. Like,
forever, dude.
I mean, they've had all sort of different iterations of Lord of the Rings, but like it's always been Western developed, right? Like, what if they
Mm.
like did like a JRPG style? Like, it's a very like dramatic story, and which it already has, but you have a party and you kind of progress throughout. Like, that would be cool.
Yes, sir.
It would be cool. But anyways, having hope, I will say that I'll go back to what I said in my predictions video that came out today. While I'm not certain we get an announcement this year, I do believe that we are looking at a Monolith Soft release before the end of 2025. Purely based off pattern. And so if whether that's Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, whether that's Xenoblade Chronicles 4, Xenoblade Chronicles Fellowship of the Monado, Xenoblade Chronicles the Goblet of Fire, or just an entirely new IP that has nothing Xenoblade in the name or only part of it, I think something's coming from them.
I'm gonna predict in the September Direct, which will be a Switch 2 and Switch Direct at that point. That's when we're gonna get announcement from Monolith, and I do think it's gonna be the new IP.
Okay.
I don't think their first game is going to be a remaster. It might be a remake or reimagining of Xenoblade X if it's something like big.
Yeah, which is a Zippo rumor, by the way.
Or it could be like Xenoblade Chronicles X2.
Yeah.
X2. But I think it's going to be some sort of.
I think it'd be weird to do X2 before Definitive Edition of X. Like that game, you realize by 2025 we're talking about a 10-year gap. Big gap. Huge. Xenoblade Chronicles X came out in 2015 on the Wii U.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a very big gap between Xenoblade 1 and 2, and then they had Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition come out after 2.
Yeah, okay, I see your point there. But Xenoblade X came out in 2015. 2 came out in 2017. Like they were divided by like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like, so and it was a launch. They can do whatever.
Either way, I think it's going to be the new IP.
Okay. I want both. I want the new IP and I want Xenoblade X Definitive Edition. Like I'm dead set on
Definitive Edition the year after. Okay. I do think their first game is going to be like a new game that's built for Switch 2.
All right. So we got another super chat here. George FT. Live presentation like 2017 or pre-recorded direct for Switch 2 presentation?
Pre-recorded.
Thank you for the super chat, first off. I agree with you, Brandon. I think it's pre-recorded. I know my friend Nintendo Prime, he's like, it's going to be a live presentation. I don't think it's going to be a live presentation.
I don't think they need to.
I just don't see the point. I don't see the point. Like, I think some people think they won't even call it a direct. I think they're just going to have a Nintendo Switch 2 direct. I think they'll have a teaser and then they'll have a direct. That's what I think. I mean, they did a direct. They had a direct for the Nintendo Park. They had a direct for the Mario movie. They do a direct for whatever they want. So, like, that's just how they deliver information. So, like, the directs have really branched out. The direct is just Nintendo putting out a direct message that's catered to you, the fan, the audience. And so they want a controlled message. Put that out for Switch 2. I think it'll be fine. I mean, they announced the Lite in a trailer, the OLED in a trailer. I mean, the Switch trailer was great. Even even the Switch presentation, it had a hardware overview trailer that told you what it was a trailer, right? Like there's a trailer that
Yeah.
tells you everything you need to know about the Switch. And so they can still have that for Switch 2, and then they can just also tell you about the games in a direct without it
Yeah,
being a live conference.
there's no real need for a live conference. I mean, it
Just
kind of
yeah,
made
just go see
sense
it.
for Switch because it was a very new product, very unique. But like the Switch 2 is just going to be iterative. And
Yeah,
there's
and
nothing they're going to just show on a stage.
the
Like,
only thing I'll say, and, the thing is, I don't know why they did the live presentation even then, right? Like the directs were already fairly prevalent then, so I don't know why they did
yeah,
that. But I wonder if it was just because they wanted to elicit like a strong response, right? They wanted that crowd thing there to really excite people. And because I mean, and if that's the case, that to me kind of explains maybe why they did it back then. Because back then, Nintendo was not sure how successful the Switch was, right? Like Nintendo was coming
yeah,
off of the Wii U, the 3DS did all right, but it was definitely a stark drop off over the Nintendo DS, right? So Nintendo wanted to do everything they could to like really hit the ground running with Switch. But I think now Nintendo has a better understanding of how people will receive their message and how they can deliver their message.
yeah.
I'll also point out that the Nintendo Direct structure has become far more consistent during the Switch era than it was beforehand, right? Like they've
Oh yeah,
really kind of sorted out how they deliver their messaging. Now, because of new generation, I'm not sure how they're going to handle things. They may mix it up a little bit. I think they kind of have to because there's a new console. But yeah, I'm leaning towards a Direct. Like I just think that that's what they do now.
I agree. I don't see any reason for a live thing, especially just because I know a lot of people in America have forgotten that COVID is a thing, but it's still a thing, and
Yeah,
a lot of the world still has rules and regulations for that. So it's a lot less likely that they would do something live nowadays, anyways.
yeah. Now, I will also say, Tears of the Kingdom, right? Lead up to that, the way they handled the marketing for Tears of the Kingdom was out of the ordinary. But they still had announcements and like they had a Tears of the Kingdom demonstration. I think that technically wasn't a direct, and they also had a live stream trailer. And
Mm,
so, but they were still pre-recorded things. They were just
yeah.
put out there, right? And so maybe they don't call it a direct, maybe it is a presentation, but I think it's gonna be pre-recorded. I think it's gonna be
Yeah.
basically a direct.
In all intents and
Yeah.
purposes, yeah. We call it what you want. It's pretty much a direct.
Also, I just don't think you should have an hour and a half long presentation. Like I don't
No.
think people want that. Keep it as concise as possible.
Yeah.
That's the
I
best
think
way
back
to
then,
the message.
like your audience was a lot smaller. Like the people paying attention were mostly like super hardcore Nintendo fans who would sit through a presentation like that.
Yeah.
I think nowadays you want to market it towards a much wider audience who's not going to sit through something like that.
Yeah. Now, to those that are like, how dare you, younglings, suggest this all digital future? Because I just want to point out that I do recognize that by doing directs and not doing a live presentation, there is something lost there, right? That I understand that. Like I would argue one of my favorite gaming moments ever is seeing that live. I wasn't there, right? I was a little kid, but I did see the response of the E3 2004
Mm,
Zelda trailer before we even knew what it was going to be called, Twilight Princess.
right.
That audience response just gives me goosebumps almost every time. And so we do lose something by doing that, right? But I'll also say in this day and era, right, we have the live reactions, right? We have like the when people watch like the Metro Prime 4 announcements at the Nintendo World Store and
Mm,
that's put on YouTube. Like there are things like that that are different, but they do kind of help to capture a little bit of that. And so I will say,
right.
Brandon and I will be watching that Nintendo Direct and probably live streaming it.
Oh yeah.
And so you'll see our reactions, but obviously I know that's not the same. But so I get it, but I think it's just one of those things that it's just gonna be lost because of time.
Yeah.
Although Apple still does their live presentation conferences, right?
And Nvidia does live conferences
Yeah.
too.
And so, I mean, maybe they think
CES is still a live conference, I believe.
right. Maybe we're full of it, and maybe there's still gonna be a live conference for Nintendo's next generation console. I don't see how it would benefit them, but you know,
Yeah, because like Nvidia, that's people who are heavily invested in tech. People watching CS, heavily invested. Like, it's Nintendo needs to target a much more casual audience as well as the hardcore. I don't think they can put out something that's that long.
right? Yeah. So now, Brandon, I know we want to end this quick, and so I'm gonna do. We're wrapping things up here.
Cool.
But I do want to address something here. I'm trying to pull something up to see if I've seen any. All right, so there's this leaker that Nintendo Prime has been leaker. I don't know. I don't know what they are. And so I've been, I guess, looking at their history, trying to find the person. I forget what their name is, so I have it in my search. Okay, Tommy Bear Knows, who they have 33 followers on Twitter. There's not a lot of people following them currently, right? But they talk about as if they know things. Nate made a video on it. Apparently, I mean, yeah, I'm looking here. I mean, I'll screen share this for you guys real quick. I don't want to dwell on this too much because I know we're ending the stream soon.
Right.
But like you see, this is their account, right? Space Metro Prime 4.
Oh!
Ah, there's a face, look, two eyes, a mouth, mustache, and big ears, and then a tail. Anyway, joking aside, or was I joking? Anyway, joking aside, right? Like they sent a message to Mr. Nate from Nintendo Prime. Well, they had a conversation, right? And apparently, the Nintendo Direct's happening on February 7th, 2024, according to this person. Now, I looked through this person's history, and they kind of like, for example, sometimes to put out their opinion, like when the Switch first look trailer was taken down, they said means nothing, and well, we didn't get an announcement, so maybe they were right. And like there have been times where they've been kind of hinting at a direct about to happen. So here they say, "Don't trust Zippo ever." Okay. Yeah. So like they haven't said anything they've been wrong on. And they have said some things that line up with direct announcements, but also I've looked at the timestamps and they have done it after PRO has started hinting at things at least once or twice. So it's possible they're just piggybacking off of someone else.
Right.
So like here, for example, right? I looked at the timestamps. I think it's like what 2:30. Yeah, 2:34. See, I remember the timestamp, and there it is. Like it just says 2:34. So and then PRO posted the same hint like at 9 a.m. that day, right? So it's not. I'm not saying that they're fake. I'm just simply stating that there's not really any compelling evidence right now to say that they're real, that they're legit. Maybe there's some things that they're like, oh, they got this right, beforehand. But it's just not clear. And so I don't want to put too much stock into it, but they are saying that a direct will happen next month, which, by the way, most directs happen in February. So, you know, that's like the safe prediction, right? But they've also said that we're not getting a Switch 2 announcement in January. And so, okay, that I expected by March 31st. So that's, that doesn't really there's no red flags there, right? The big thing that they're saying, though, and this is something to pay attention to, is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door having new content in there. And I think they suggest it's centered around Luigi. So,
oh, bro, could you imagine? So in Paper Mario: Thousand-Year Door, if you talk to Luigi, and you can talk to him every chapter, and he'll have different things to say. He talks about going to a different kingdom and having adventures. I forget what the name of the kingdom.
We're going to that Luigi kingdom then.
But bro, because in between chapters, right? You get to play as Peach or Bowser. But what if now in between chapters there's Peach sections, Bowser sections, and Luigi sections?
It would just make sense. It's like an easy. And I'll tell you what, when that happens, I'm gonna be like, hey, listen, we're gonna have Sheik sections in Ocarina of Time.
Bro, I would. Whew.
Right. It makes so much sense. I'm excited about the idea, right? So
Yeah.
I don't believe this, right? But they could be legit, and so, but of course, there's just not a lot of evidence. It's just there, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. So, but if we get a Nintendo Direct on February 7th, and there is Luigi missions or Luigi content, in Thousand Year Door, then we'll be like, oh, okay, this is another one, right? But until that happens, I'm not going to be like for sure,
I mean,
because they
I
could
could
just be piggybacking
definitely.
off someone else.
Yeah, I could definitely see new content coming to Paper Mario just because they do seem to be heavily rethinking aspects of the game, like
Sure,
from
and
the
that
art style to like
you
object placement to
use the
who's saying
terminology
lines in
reimagining.
cutscenes. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you're right about that. They've changed cutscenes, they've changed character position. I think there's even like a couple new like random side characters, right? Like so,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense, right? So, I mean, maybe even then it's a prediction, right? But I like it. I love the idea of it at least, right? Like, forget the rumor. Like, that just sounds fun. Like, I want
Oh
that
yeah,
for Thousand Year Door.
hell
And
yeah.
Nintendo has had a lot of new content, a lot of their remasters throughout this gen. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch. Now I have another super chat here I'd like to get to. From David Lopez. Thank you for the super chat, David. I really appreciate it. David says, whether presentations from Nintendo or Xbox, I hope to see a release date for Penny's Big Breakaway, as that game is shaping up to be a big shakeup for 3D platformers.
I've not heard of this game.
Right, so I had to Google this because I am not familiar with it either. Penny's, is this a joke or is this a real thing? Oh, it's a video game.
Oh, it's a thing on Steam.
It's real. Oh no, you know, I've actually seen this before. Okay. It's supposed to come out this year, so it's I've seen this before. I just didn't remember the name. Ooh, I kind of like the font. It reminds me a little bit of like Sega, old like Sonic art style. A little
It's
bit like
very classic Sega.
yeah. They got the rings and the okay.
This game reminds me of. It's a platform. This reminds me of, but I don't remember what it.
I want to look at actual. Oh no, I'm playing loud audio. Okay.
There's screenshots, but there's no gameplay video that I saw. Steam.
It's a 3D platformer. It looks cool.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I can screen share this for you. Oh god, it's so loud.
Yeah.
I'll screen share this real quick. All right, here we go. I'm gonna minimize the audio a little bit. It looks fun. Yeah, I'll play this.
Looks cool.
Yeah, I would. That looks really fun.
Looks like a very like classic type platform.
Yeah, I mean that's some cool stuff they're doing there.
They don't make a lot of these anymore.
So it's the yo-yo.
I like the yo-yo.
Yeah, no, this looks awesome.
The movement looks really smooth.
Yeah. Wow. Color me impressed. Hey guys, it's the new 3D Mario. This is it. Oh, I love it. I think it's really cool. So I'm glad I checked that out. Yeah, that's cool stuff. Yeah, hopefully we get some news on that for sure. I'm all for that. Let's see here. All right, so we're pretty much done. I'm just gonna look at a couple chats here and we'll close out. Brandon, there's something else you want to bring up? Just feel free to. Is it made by Sonic Mania devs?
It's made by Evening Star, published by Private Division. I don't know who Evening Star is. Evening Star. No, this is Private Division.
Developers Evening Star. Well, okay. I put developer because if you just put Evening Star, you're gonna say different. What have they done? What's their history? This is their history. Our games. I just see this is the game. Like this is it. I don't know what else they've done. But it looks cool. Looks really cool. Anyway, I got another super chat here from Taker610. Thank you for the super chat. Taker says, weren't Luigi's Mansion and Paper Mario already rated by the ESRB? I think they both could be out by May. Not another Bound Wonderworld, I hope. In relation to the Penny's Big Break. Yeah, it looks really fun. Yes, I actually talked about this in my predictions video. Both are rated, and so that is, while we have seen Nintendo sit on games, I kind of think that both these are coming out sooner than expected. And I've gone down the crazy road. And even though Nintendo has told us Luigi's Mansion 2 is coming out in summer, I think we could see it as early as this May. I'm not saying that for sure it's coming out May. I'm just saying if it comes out in May, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm putting that out there. But June, June is a very reasonable expectation for this game. And Thousand Year Door, I think, is like firmly a summer release. Like definitely sometime this summer, Thousand Year Door is coming out. Like to me, that's what the ESRB ratings are strengthening. Like I've already kind of thought this, but seeing the ratings now, it tells you like they're ready to go, right? And so Nintendo's not going to go months without having nothing. They're going to continue the content coming, and we don't know about anything else yet. So that's what I think.
True. I do feel like Thousand Year Door might be a cross-gen release.
And I think it's positioned for summer.
Yes.
But
I don't think Luigi's
both
Mansion
those things can
I
work,
think Luigi's
right?
Mansion is definitely coming out before the Switch 2.
Yes, like May.
Yeah.
Like maybe May. So we'll see. But have a good night, Nikenin. I'm trying to hide comments, but I keep popping them up. Yeah, I think we've reached pretty much the end of the stream. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I should address before we close out. I agree with this one. The real J Stone. And Nintendo E3 2004 was the GOAT. We had Resident Evil 4. There was a timed exclusive for GameCube, so keep that in mind. Metro Prime 2 Echoes and Twilight Princess. That was like those 3 games are like top 10 GameCube games.
Yeah, those are huge.
Like arguably top 5. Like they're Resident Evil 4 might be the best of it's I don't know. They're all 3 are top 10 GameCube games. Like they're not even like I think they're just really freaking good games. Like beyond the GameCube.
They hold up.
They hold up, right? All those games have been remastered. And one of them has been remade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That remake's definitely coming to Switch 2, by the way. I can guarantee
Resident
you
Evil
that.
remake? Resident Evil remake? I hope so. Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I've been wanting to. Resident Evil is one of my favorite games ever, so you would think I would have played it already. But I'm finally working through VR.
Oh, sorry, but if Nintendo does do a VR collaboration with Google, like the rumors say, I really hope that Resident Evil 4 remake VR is available.
Yeah, that'd be epic. Anyway, I think that's it for tonight. It was a fun opening stream to the year. Definitely, there's a little bit of an excitement in the air, and well, guys, we're just warming up. I think it's gonna be a fun year. So
hell yeah, this is gonna be a huge year.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a great night. Brandon, I'm glad you could finally come back on.
Of course.
Looking forward to a lot more streams with you.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you all really soon. Take care.
Bye, guys.